Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing light versus dark, good versus evil, and I guess hoppy versus malty, probably. Since I'm going to be heading back to Scotland in a little over a week's time, I thought it was a good reason to drink all of my Scottish beers, basically just so I can replace them with fresher ones, to be honest. Of course, these are two beers from Loch Ness Brewery. Light Ness, which has featured on the channel before, and I even reviewed it in Scotland, and then Dark Ness, which is new to the channel and new to me. Light Ness is available in several supermarkets in Scotland, particularly Morrison's and on occasion some of the discount retailers. Dark Ness, I believe, is the same. However, it's always been sold out when I've gone to buy it, which tells me it might just be a little bit good. So I'm going to pitch them head to head, Light Ness versus Dark Ness, and see which version of Nessie is indeed the bestie. Before we get into it then, a quick look at both the bottles and a little bit more info. Light Ness, as I said we've covered before, is described as a session pale ale at 3.8% from Loch Ness Brewery, and here is a quick look at the bottle. They've got a pretty standard design across their whole range, as you can tell from these two. And then on to Dark Ness. This is described as a rich black stout at 4.4%, again from Loch Ness Brewery. We'll go into more details on the side of the bottle later, but for now, as a quick look, I'm digging the design, I have to say. Right, let's get them open. I don't have a whole lot of choice when it comes to identical glasses, and when you're doing a head-to-head, well, it just feels right. I do have 2 pint glasses from Black Sheep Brewery. I didn't steal these from the pub. I actually got these a long time ago in a gift pack. Full disclosure, these aren't part of my regular beer review glass collection, which you see behind me. So these have been subject to a lot of wear and tear over the years, including an awful lot of dishwasher washing. So I'm not expecting these to be absolutely perfectly clean. And in fact, I can even see, in fact, that dirt's on the outside. But, well, you know, just be forgiving. So then, both beers poured out, and let's be honest, both, I mean, obviously very different colouring, but very similar in terms of consistency. Both a little bit lively on the end of the pour. The pale has settled down, but it was poured first. It's a very nice. I mean, maybe it's a little cold actually because these glasses are steaming up. Although it is very humid here today, I have to say. But yeah, nice, solid. It's almost see through. There's just a tiny bit of haze to it. Solid. Now 1 finger white hair. Looks like just a properly good classic British pale, really. And then on to Dark Ness. This is wow. I've got a very bright light on me and I can see nothing through it. That is a properly thick, pitch black stout. I'm just going to go and say it's kind of a creamer, very off-white head. It's not quite toffee or chocolatey. It's just, fairly standard, again, for what you'd expect from a fairly traditional British stout. So, yeah, all in all, some good brand consistency there. So, let's find out which one is the one to go for. First up, aromas on Light Ness. Nice, malty, but also quite floral, quite hoppy. Getting a bit of a shandy vibe off the aroma. I'll be honest, I've not watched my previous review. I hope some of this comes across the same. It's it's nice, light, grassy, floral, and it's got a nice, subtle lemon, citrusy zing there that if this was a completely blind test and you said, what is this? I'd have probably said it's a shandy or maybe a radler of some sort. But yeah, the aroma is still pretty warm here. That's very appealing. Right then. And then Dark Ness. Ooh. I mean, it's deep and dark, as you'd expect, but low down, subtle coffee. Maybe a bit of licorice, but I'll be honest, arguments for dark chocolate and all the normal stouty good things, but I have to say, not huge amounts of aroma. Really, it's pretty subtle but completely non-offensive. So I guess we'll find out in a minute if that shines through into something, yeah, a bit more robust in the flavour. So let's get into them. Cheers. Lightness coming up. That still remains a very, very good interpretation of a classic British pale. It's got hop character. They are very traditional hop flavours, but it's not stuffy or twiggy, as a lot of people describe trad beers these days. It's light, it's fresh, it's a bit spritzy, lots of citrus notes in there, and also some kind of lingering generic meadow flavours is what I really want to say. You know, subtle flowers, a bit grassy, but yeah, solid beer, has to be said. Really not too bad. Right then, Dark Ness. Let's see what the dark side of Nessie has to offer. Cheers. Ooh, that is still subtle, but not in a bad way. There is proper rich coffee notes, but they're all quite low down. They're not shouty. It's not too intense, not too roasty. It's slightly more biscuit and chocolate forward than it is licorice, and it feels very mineral heavy as well, which, to be honest, is quite a common trait of Scottish water, so we probably shouldn't be too surprised. It's definitely got quite a lot of character and a lot of personality, but it's not overpowering. It's right on the edge in terms of flavour intensity between a session stout and not. Stouts are always a little bit difficult sessionable wise because so often they're very, very punchy is probably the wrong word, but just an extra level of intensity that's maybe not too fresh compared to a pale ale, which is why session beers tend to be more towards this side. But I have to say, as a completely straight up, no nonsense, traditional, no adjuncts, no nothing stout, not trying to be too clever in any department, it's certainly one of the better interpretations I've seen recently. Generally speaking, when you go back to non-fancy, non-especially craft traditional stouts these days, they tend to be a bit weak, a bit thin, a bit watery. No, this is doing it properly, and it's just not doing anything too intensively. And to be honest, despite what sounds like a bit of a backhanded compliment, I'm really enjoying it. Right then, quick, super quick, top to bottom taste test for both of these beers. And full disclosure, you can't really do two beers at once much justice, so take what I'm about to say with a pinch of salt and put it in your porridge. So, Lightness initially. Fizzy, spritzy, almost a bit of a champagne-style bitterness on the front of the tongue. That quickly transcends, you get a big hit of lemon, general citrus flavour, and it rolls into that grassy meadow seed, light floral thing, and then just as you think it's going to be all about the hop, this nice, sweet, light, biscuity, almost shortbread-esque flavour. Maybe not so much the vanilla, but just that real down, grainy flavour kicks in to round it out in the aftertaste. And that, for me, is what makes something a distinctly Scottish beer. It's that back end that has just a tip of the hat to their, I guess, their national biscuit. I'm not even sure when Scottish brewers do this, it's intentional. And if it is, well done. And if it's not, well, still well done, because it just reminds you of where this beer came from. And beer is all about situation, as I've said many times on this channel. The best beer in the world will be terrible if you're not in a situation that will allow you to enjoy it, or you just don't fancy it. It's never going to work. So the fact that we get that reminder right at the end of the origin of this beer, yeah, I'm digging that for sure. Right then, on to Dark Ness. Initially, mild carbonation, When I first poured this, I was a bit concerned it was going to be overly carbonated for a stout, but actually it's pretty much right on the money. Maybe it's a tiny bit more than I would choose to do if I was making it, but at the same time, in this instance, I think it helps carry those subtler flavours just a little bit better. What's interesting about this beer, though, is that the flavour profile doesn't necessarily lag itself out in stages. I can't really say that the coffee comes first and then the chocolate or whatever. There's just a singular experience, a little bit reminiscent of kind of a chocolate truffle or something like that, where you've got an amalgamation of relatively intense flavours all in one go. Obviously, in this, as I've already said, the intensity is dialed down. But yeah, chocolate, coffee, maybe a bit of a nutty vibe. And now it's warming up, maybe a bit of that traditional stout licorice just lingering almost as a spice to give it a bit of extra kick as well, which is very nice. And the aftertaste is really where that mineral experience comes in. It's oddly less malty on the back end than the pale, but maybe that's just because the flavour intensity is just that much more complex, even if not intense, if that makes any sense at all. But yeah, it's not hyper refreshing, but it's not drying my mouth out either. Right then, let's take a quick look at both of these bottles and pour the rest of them into the glasses. So then, Loch Ness Session Pale Ale at 3.8% from Loch Ness Brewery. It says, a delicate fruity ale with Galaxy, Columbus and Citra. Interesting. I said it's definitely a traditional hop profile. But I also said it wasn't very fugly, twiggy, and yeah, that's interesting. I think it's maybe been done sparingly to try and effectively mimic a more traditional pale ale hop profile, but with some new age hops. So what we've learned here is that I don't know what I'm talking about, but anyway. But yeah, it's combining these beautifully with clear Highland water. It's straw gold in colour with aromas of apple and zesty citrus. Didn't get the apple, and from memory, I don't think I got it last time either. But there we are, leading to a fresh, pithy tangerine bitterness. For me, it's more sweet lemonade, but yeah, you can see how they go a similar way. It says, vast and unfathomable, which is a difficult word to say correctly. Loch Ness has been long held in its reputation a dark, mysterious stretch of water, blessed with mythical healing powers, and a home to the world's most infamous monster, Nessie. At Loch Ness Brewery, we harness clear Highland water to brew our award-winning ales to be enjoyed by free thinkers and beer drinkers everywhere. That they certainly do. There is not really a whole great more on the bottle. It's 1.9 UK units in this bottle because it is only 3.8%. But yeah, best before 28th of July 2023. So got the best part of a year still left on that. So it is pretty fresh. And then for comparison on Loch Ness, best before the 28th of September 2023. So that's more than a year away. So they've got good shelf lives on these things. This one then, Loch Ness, a rich black stout, 4.4% from Loch Ness Brewery. A full, flavoursome stout with chocolate malt and roast barley combining beautifully with clear Highland water. A creamy head with aromas of coffee and sweet chocolate. Yeah, I agree with that. Leading to hints of espresso and luxurious black cherry. I said later on the licorice was starting to come in. Blend together the bitterness of espresso and some of the fruity notes of black cherry, and it's not far away, if I'm honest. And once again, we get the same general spiel about Loch Ness being vast and unfathomable, which I've now said right twice without a retake, which I'm quite impressed with. I might treat myself to 2 good beers as a result. So then, that is Loch Ness versus Loch Ness. But whatever can we come to in a conclusion? Loch Ness, I've got to give a big shout out for, because despite having reviewed it once and already theoretically having known what hops are in it, and it still tripped me up, and it's got Citra in, which I don't like, and I still quite enjoy this generally. It has got a bit of that Citra astringency, but it's very quickly doled out by that fantastic malt base. So for me, it just gets away with it. So if you like Citra, it's probably incredible. Darkness, well, I wanted to try this for a long time, and I'm a bit of a stout snob, if that's the right way to think about it. I know what I like in stouts, and I praise Scottish beer a lot, especially their lagers and their pales. Despite stout being one of my favourite styles and Scotland being one of my favourite beer producers, actually very rarely do I get a Scottish producer that makes stouts that just do it for me, if that makes sense. I'm normally a bit disappointed, and whilst I wouldn't say I was disappointed with this, I would happily give it a go on cask. I'm probably not going to buy a bulk load of it from the supermarket given the opportunity. So it's nice. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just maybe not quite what I'm looking for in an everyday stout, and I'm not really sure why that is, but I hope that helps. So that really is everything. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it if you haven't already subscribed, if you will be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.